Some brief notes about Paleolithic periods in North America, with main reference to Michigan. It is a fact that what we today call the United States of America has been inhabited much longer than had been believed. For now, though, let's concentrate on the age some 12,000 to 15,000 years ago. The nation, in archaeological circles, that is, or the notion in archaeological circles that all the non-Europeans arrived via an ice bridge which led from Asia to here is no longer on sound footing. More recent discoveries and new information indicates that there were a number of different migrations, and people may well have crossed both the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. Those early migrations took place by 12,000 to 15,000 or more years ago. Some may actually have occurred an incredible 20,000 years ago. These early peoples are called Paleo Indians. Now, as to how this pertains to Michigan, which is the main thrust of this particular piece, I would like to reference an excellent article written by Jill Arnold for the Archives of Michigan publication. Miss Arnold wrote, "Thousands of years ago, the land we know as Michigan was shaped by glaciers. Long before there were people living here in Michigan, ice more than a mile thick moved slowly back and forth across the state. The ice acted like a huge bulldozer, scraping and gouging the land's surface. And as the ice melted, the waters formed lakes and rivers. The largest of the lakes are the Great Lakes, which surround most of Michigan." Ms. Arnold continues, "Paleo-Indian peoples probably came into Alaska via crossing the Bering Straits from Asia to Alaska. They were few in number, but they traveled widely. They herd animals that they depended on for food, skins and hides for making clothing and covering their dwellings. Paleo people probably arrived in Michigan about 12,000 years ago." End quote. These first Michiganians are called Paleo Indians, which means ancient Indians. These people hunted big game to survive animal skins such as caribou. While it was not yet been proven for sure, they may also have hunted mammoths and mastodons here in Michigan. Some years ago now, up at Tawas, Michigan, a Mr. John Henry was doing excavations to create a pond on his property when, to his amazement, he discovered the remains of a Jefferson mammoth, including tusks. I believe it was Michigan State University, but I could be wrong, that came to investigate, but they missed a unique and very rare opportunity to connect ancient man with that great beast. My dear friend, Jerry Wagner, who has passed away, but he had devoted most of his life to the study of ancient man, and we went together to the Henry home so that we could look at the remains, the site itself, and do some photography. Well, of course, the investigating body took all the remains, but Mr. Henry had some sizable pieces of the tusks that he found later. And as Jerry and I were walking about the immediate spot where the find had been made, I saw Jerry pick up something, and a smile broadly broke across his face, and he held out a somewhat crude but undeniable stone celt, which quite possibly was used in the butchering of this animal about 11,000 years ago. Professional archaeologists have by and large a dim view of collectors, but how could they have missed such a significant artifact? Who knows? To me, though, it cinched it. Paleo Indians in Michigan did indeed hunt the giants and may have played a role in their extinction. They were able to kill such large animals by spears, some of which were beautifully made. They had a fairly large toolkit at their disposal, and they were very skilled at making all manner of stone tools. And basically, though, they made stone knives for butchering, scrapers, for preparing the hides, and wedges for splitting bone, as well as splitting wood. I found a number of wedges, stone wedges this year. This year already. A favorite stone for Michigan Indians from Paleo, Archaic, and woodland cultures to use was chert, which some people call flint. There are outcroppings of chert all across the Great Lakes area, and some exotic cherts have been found, which were either trade items or were deposited here by the receding glaciers. They also used antler and bone to make usable tools like needles, awls, and perhaps even fishhooks. They used these bone tools to make clothes out of the animal hides. The Paleo inhabitants of Michigan are believed to have gathered many types of plants that grow here wild. They likely included blueberries, cranberries, cattails, and the inner bark of certain trees. They likely also made special drinks such as very vitamin-rich tea from juniper, sumac, and other plants. These people who traveled in groups, probably family groups, combined their talent for hunting, gathering food, and clothing to the benefit of their single-family unit. One can assume that these early persons had a strong religious belief system, judging by how carefully they buried their dead in a very specific way, and often included with the burials both food and tools that they believed would be necessary in the life to come. The upper portion of Michigan had a very special commodity that the ancient Indians, the Paleo Indians, seem to have taken vast advantage of, and that was copper. The southern shores of Lake Superior had established hunting and fishing communities throughout the Great Lakes Basin. One way these people, who also go by the name of the Old Copper Culture, was by the use of hammering stones. These stones were found by the thousands near prehistoric copper mining pits, especially in the Keweenaw Peninsula. One source I found explained the Indian miner would build a fire over the copper vein, which would heat the rock around the copper, and then they would pour cold water on the rock to crack it, so that they could remove the copper with their huge stone hammers and stone chisels. Some of their hammers are said to have had handles on them, and when they broke, they simply tossed them aside because rocks for hammers were about as abundant as the copper itself. Some of the hammers were ground, and this was accomplished with the help of smaller stones. The copper, besides being traded to other tribes in other areas, was also used for the production of spear points, arrowheads, knives, harpoons, and jewelry, which included hair pipes and probably earplugs worn in the earlobes. That's as far as I'm going to take this time. There will be a lot more coming up on the Paleo period in Michigan as I begin to relate more to you about finds that I've made that I'm very confident are Paleolithic in origin. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great evening, and God bless.